and moves of the modern day athlete. And this is going to be an episode we want to definitely be mindful of the holiday and what's going on, and understanding that it is a time to be thankful. So let's get that kicked off and started. Moby, tomorrow, big plans, anything going on?
Nah, staying low key, just immediate family with everything going on. Usually we have a big get together with ourselves and our family friends, but got to be considerate of everything that's going on. But we're just thankful everyone's healthy, thankful everyone's, going to be able to be together, and can't take it for granted because a lot of people have been affected by this. And so just count our blessings. How about you?
Hey man, same. Got to be very considerate of everything happening, going on. We are going to try to get, some of the hot. I need the food. I'm cool with the Zooms. You can Zoom me in, you can FaceTime, whatever, but the food has to be real. Yeah. And one of my requirements is always is yams. That's one of my jams. So we got yams. Huh?
You're a rapper now. Yams and jams.
Hey, I didn't put that together, but yeah. So I gotta have my yams on Thanksgiving Day. So I'm excited. My wife's, she got my mom's recipe and she's gonna try to make those. So we'll see.
Nice.
But something that you were intimately involved in last week, we got to see the NBA draft kickoff. A lot of young men, their dreams came true overnight. And what you love about that is, the ability to chase this dream, chase a vision, and then achieve it, and get your name called, walk across the street, and become an instant millionaire. Any headlines, any thoughts you had from the draft last week?
No, I mean, congratulations to all those players. Obviously, LaMelo Ball was a strong talking point. He got drafted to Charlotte. Wasn't the number one pick, but top 5. That means a lot.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good for LeVar Ball to have 2 boys in the top 5 within 4 or 5 years apart. That's amazing. There's another story that I wanted to point out.
Please.
One of the basketball players, he immediately bought his parents a Range Rover, and it was cool. But I don't think people associate the other cost outside of when you buy those nice things. But
right.
I'm sure he thought about it beforehand. He's overnight millionaire. I think he could survive that.
It's not just surviving it. You're right though. It's great intention, great idea. I go and buy my parents a car. Range Rover, pretty nice car. But the cost with that, that comes, more importantly, that's day one of a contract.
Yeah.
And if you're buying them a Range, you got to go and get some other kind of bigger, better car.
Yeah.
So that's doubling down there. And you just start to look at it and say, I get it. This was an amazing time, an amazing moment. And it is your family. Take care of mom and dad. They got you there. They drove you around. So they earned a car. But I just, you hesitate. You got to continue to look at it through that long-term frame. If he talked about it and his plan was like, this is my one big one this year, this is my purchase, totally cool with it. But I got to circle back to the Ball family, man.
Yeah, please do.
Because he the 3 brothers. So I'm one of 3 brothers. And people growing up always told my dad, you're crazy. You're too hard on him. You're too disciplined. If you spent the night over at my house growing up, you were out in the backyard shooting free throws or picking up yard work, you were just one of the brothers.
Yeah.
That's what it is. We had, I remember the last one out on the basketball court growing up started doing yard work. So my brothers would all we'd all be slipping and sliding and be well, what's going on? What's going on? And then Scoot, I actually vividly remember when my middle brother Jake finally was hey guys, if we all just go out together, nobody really loses. I was dude, that's a union right there.
Yeah.
That's strong. But the first time in NBA history, 2 brothers have been drafted in the top 5. You call the Ball family what you want, the big baller brand. What he has done is truly remarkable. Take all the talent you want in the world, but to be able to have his sons disciplined enough, focused enough, and ambitious enough to go and achieve this kind of environment is truly an amazing feat. And I look at that now. One of your big action items and takeaways was around the branding. This family has been branded more than anything outside of McDonald's. When you look at a brand assessment, or you always call it a brand audit, what are some first thoughts around what a brand audit is, and what would be some of your insights on the Big Baller brand?
So it's funny because with LeVar Ball, he's been planting the seeds from the very beginning, strategically around everything he's done. I think there was an article that came out, or an interview, where he said, I could have invested millions into real estate, but I've invested millions into my boys.
Boys.
Yeah, so he knew he had the manifestation goal of, 3 sons in the NBA. Obviously, one's kind of on the fringe, but two kids, top 5 NBA draft picks. But when we talk about brand audit, we want to discover, all right, what are their pillars? What are they known for? So Lonzo, Jello, LaMelo, what are they known for? So when you talk about brand audit, what are your 4 walls or your 4 corners? And then everything in that. So how do you want to be perceived amongst the audience? And then how do you perceive yourself? And then your brand is kind of like a mixture of the two. Obviously, when you control your brand, which is what I love about Big Baller brand, they have their own Facebook channel. They make sure that they're the ones driving the narrative, driving the media. Instead of people making stories about them, they're making stories, and then we can follow. But from a specific brand audit, when it comes to your social media, making sure that there's no previous posts that could get you in trouble, no retweets, no pictures. And I think they've done a good job of that, because they've just known what it's like to be in the spotlight. Outside of that, I touched on it earlier, how you want to be perceived, and then how do you perceive yourself, find a balance between the two. And then what's your messaging? So I feel like with Big Baller brand, it's, a family unit, hard work, dedication, ambitious. They block out the noise. They have a lot of naysayers and haters, but they continue to be successful in whatever they do. And, you may, when you think of Big Baller brand, you may immediately think of LeVar Ball, but as we've gotten to know them more and more, it's more family, it's more growing up together, it's more working hard, and, not allowing yourself to just fall into the pressures of, whether it's the Nikes, the Adidas's, the Pumas. Yeah, you can work with them, but it's better to have your own with your family.
I love that. And you're absolutely right. That brand came on the scene as one thing, and it has continued to evolve and be updated. The 4 corners is really cool. And it is so telling to me how in tune you are, and we have to become around our brand and our messaging, because it is what we want to be sending out. Mm-hmm. But then we always have to flip the script and always look at it from the consumer's eyes and be able to answer, what are they perceiving? What do they look at us, and what do they understand? And, what's neat is when I get to see crossover. Yeah. And you've built a brand. I am building a brand. And one of the crossovers is, what landmines can we remove? You mentioned, how can we remove that picture that could destroy us, that thing that could hurt us, that is no different than in finance. How can we transfer and remove some of the major risks and the major problems that we're struggling with? So I love that connectivity, but, nothing but upside coming from the Big Baller brand, who they partner with, how they partner, where they go. It is going to be truly impressive, as they've already accomplished so much, being the first 2 brothers to ever be drafted in the top 5. So kudos and shout outs there. And as we love to do as modern day athletes, we want to promote and we want to establish, this idea of taking our income on a court, on a field, in a sport, and becoming business minded. And this week's article, this week's update is around Cholula, Cholula Hot Sauce. Can I just get a little dash of it? Yeah,
you guys have any Cholula, please?
Oh, see, I'm a New Orleans guy, so it was like Crystal, and then you got Frank's, but Cholula, I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, no, it's really cool to see. I think the biggest takeaway, and for context, Travis Kelce from the Kansas City Chiefs and a couple other players. I think Dak Prescott, J.J. Watt. They invested in Cholula, and they just recently got bought by McCormick's, and apparently they 300x their investment.
300x.
So I think it's really important for athletes to know, because you may want to be invested in like the up and coming thing or the thing that nobody knows about. But when you invest in things that you use, things that you know about, things that you know, like, or you can see and touch every day, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with, backing a winner instead of backing like an underdog or
unknown.
The unknown. So, when you invest in what you know, when you see what you can touch and invest in that, more often than not, you're going to be more successful.
And that's what was so neat was Kelsey came out and said, I knew this brand, I knew this company. They even referenced the capital fund that they went through is built to help and empower athletes. And as they do it, they say, we follow the Warren Buffett model. We start to look at it and say, we only want to invest in things that we know and we understand. Hot sauce is one of those types of environments that we all can know and understand. And, really just challenging ourselves to look at these dollars. How do we take this investment? How do we take this money and put it towards something? I love that you pointed out it doesn't have to be, the next Snowflake. I still don't even really know what Snowflake does, but I understand that a lot of people became massive millionaires after their IPO.
Yeah.
When I look at companies that I want to go and be with long term, I love the firework. I love the short term growth in those options. But the idea of taking something practical, we brought it up. Warren Buffett, some of his biggest investments, Coca-Cola, was because he had a cherry Coke every day.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just that simple mindset, that simple understanding of how do we take practical understanding of what we know and then go and implement it. If you are in tech sales and tech software and you understand this is the growing trend and this is the company that's going to go and do this, no problem. No longer is that gambling, that is investing. But if it's just me rolling the dice on whatever the next hot tech stock tip thing is, that to me is gambling, and that to me is not going to be exactly what this is. And I do want to point out another one of the athletes that was in this was Oladipo from the Pacers. And what was Oladipo, excuse me. And what was so cool is I'm watching The Masked Singer with my daughters, which is just their favorite show. And that cat can sing, man.
Oh, yeah. You got like an album and stuff.
He's an amazing talent. Like I was like, whoa. So it was just like I saw his name pop up again. I'm like, this dude, he's everywhere.
Yeah, he's everywhere.
That's what you want to be. That's the Ball family. That's Travis Kelce. You see him in commercials now. We are starting to get a really neat framework around what the modern day athlete is. And it's just a really neat time in space. That being said, when you look at something like a Klay Thompson, who obviously signed a $200 million deal, and he is in branding and he is investing and he's, starting companies of his own, but he also just had that injury. He had that possibly, knock on wood, I'm a coup. I want nothing more than to see him be the best in the world. But he has that kind of injury that can disrupt his entire career. So how do you balance that for you? Like, you are currently an athlete, you are currently investing. How do you decide like what you're going to be able to put out and say, this is going to go to work for me, but I also have to understand that I don't know what's coming up next?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think it's always, we bring it back to the basics. You always want an emergency fund, but you always got to think of your contract, your current contract as your last contract. So you can't be under the impression like, oh yeah, we had a good season, we won, we made the playoffs, I went all-star, they're definitely going to sign me to a new contract. It's going to be, 2x to what no, the GM and the team's job is to find better talent for a lower price.
Every year.
So you got to think of your current contract as your last contract. So obviously Klay Thompson's in a unique situation where he has a big NBA deal. He has a big shoe deal. So he could take a little bit more risk. But as you said, it's so unfortunate, back-to-back season-ending injuries. So that weighs into his mind. He might lose his value. So now it's like, all right, I have this pot of money. first I want to make sure, let me make sure I'm like doing different types of investment strategies where I'm going to make money off my income over the course of time. All right, let me have a bucket where I can take a little bit more risk, where I want to like, let me invest in this CBD company that I'm starting, or let me invest in the new media company that I'm starting. All right, that's a specific bucket or fund for that. And then let me make a fund for my everyday expenses. Let me make a fund for charitable givings, as you always allude to, and break up your pot of money into funds.
And what was, and I love that you brought up the CBD again. What do you know? I am an athlete. I'm taking CBD on a daily basis. Klay Thompson is using it in his recovery. That is now a business that he is investing in because he sees the upside of it. But I love your bucketing. I love your organization, your structuring. And as you mentioned, the charitable kind of concept, that's going to be a perfect transition and segue into it's Thanksgiving time, things we want to be thankful for. And I know you have plenty of stories. One story this year, I was really thankful. And I didn't even see it like as it happened in March. I saw it a few weeks later, but I got to bring it up to a friend last week. And I was like, oh, this is just too good of a story to not, really dive back in on. When the coronavirus first hit, the NBA hit pause, stadiums cleared out, and nobody really knew what was going to happen. And we originally thought it was going to be a month defer of the season. During that time, there was a handful of NBA players who stepped up and said, I want to support our stadium staff. So one of them was a rookie, Zion Williamson, who I know he's making millions. I know he has contracts. I know he has sponsors, all those kinds of things. But this idea that a 20-year-old young man was outside of his mind long enough to look around and say, this city, and he even brought it up. He's like, this city's still struggling from Hurricane Katrina. These people have been nothing but gracious and welcoming to me. I want to take the next month and support and sponsor them for all that they are giving to me. I thought that was one of the coolest stories. I thought it actually went a little under the radar as Corona continued to drive down some of the positives. But as you look at this is one of those stories I was thankful for. And as we go into tomorrow, we got to remember that charitable mindset, that charitable inclination is something that we need to be thankful for. Grateful people are happy. Happy people aren't grateful. That is the mismatch that people often assume. So what's a story from this year that you were thankful to see that you got to enjoy?
First and foremost, I love that story that you talked about, and you like you alluded to, when you give, you receive, and not to say like you should just only give so you can receive in the back end, but when you give, you receive blessings as well. So, I would say a story that I think the athletes stepping up and giving people opportunities to share their voice, specifically around the social justice issues. Giving them a safe space to have their voices heard and be with them in the front lines. I think that was something that, people are thankful for, because usually, athletes, we're just focused on our careers and, just playing the sport, but being able to like really dive into communities on both sides of the playing field and like share that voice, share that community. I think people came together. So that's my story.
Those are the stories. And again, it's athletes looking at their platform. And sure, you can say this is a marketing play, it's a PR grab, in the end of the day, they are looking at this thing and saying, what is and I'm going to steal you, what is the message I am putting out? How do I want to be perceived? How am I being perceived? Mm-hmm. I remember a clip that kind of went viral, a year or two ago. Marshawn Lynch and Richard Sherman were talking on the sideline, and it was during a game. And Richard Sherman's like, "Hey, man, what are you doing for Christmas?" Marshawn's like, "Man, we still got Thanksgiving. I'm going to go back to my community. I want to go and invest in them. I'm bringing out turkey dinners for everybody, blah, blah, blah." And you just look at that guy and you're like, man, Marshawn had such an opportunity to be this amazing brand. And he never really kind of was allowed to be that person, even though he was acting in association with that. And so I look at these times and it's like, it's really neat that 5 years later, athletes are starting to say, I don't want to do this just in the dark. I want to build this stage and build this presence.
Yeah.
And because we are, role models, we are leaders in a community. And he obviously goes above and beyond in what he's done in Oakland. So, no, I think that's a really good platform.
No, respect. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
So we didn't actually prep for this one, but did you have an athlete of the week this week that we wanted to highlight?
Athlete of the week. Who's been making some noise recently? Recently, I would say, who can I count? Who can I call on? I don't have anyone, to be honest. I mean,
well, I know one of your frugal athlete posts was around 4 different players opening that different CBD companies. One of them being Klay Thompson. I think we could throw Klay in there. He's been in the headlines for good and for bad as of late.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we can go with that. Yeah, it's really tough for him to have to go through that. Every athlete, but I think it's going to be interesting to see, him dive into some of his other projects because of, back-to-back injuries. He's going to have a lot of time on his hands.
He's got a lot of time, man. And this is a conversation I have quite often, both through social media, through friends, and just through, workshops. Time is and can be an amazing resource and tool and asset if you use it wisely. A lot of people look at the stock market, look at a lot of different things and say, hey, this is a crime or it's a rigged system. Things can go up and go down. And we need to challenge ourselves to always look at our decisions through that time aspect and through how we can really understand what is going to happen years, months, days down the road. And so I appreciated that. And I love that. Let's,
Actually, I do got an athlete of the week.
All right, there you go.
Another athlete has been named director of athlete or the sports division for UBS. You might know him. You guys have a big NFL alumni killing it in the finance space. Adewale Ogunle.
Yeah.
So he got recently appointed to lead up their sports and entertainment financial division for UBS.
Ottawa. So I actually just got to be on a few calls with him. He's also going to be helping out the NFL League office with the financial literacy workshops as well as I am going to be in that group. So I have recently become, more familiar with him. But one, I love the hometown respect. I love that. Yeah, you guys got to keep tabs on each other. But truly, yeah, you look at, 20, 30 years ago, athletes were not sitting in the executive, tables. We weren't on the board. And it's really neat to kind of be able to see, like, today, that's where we are. That's where we're going. That's, what we want to become. And it's because the mindset has changed, because examples have changed. And once you start to have examples, you can really make that change. So good pull on the athlete there.
I was like, I knew we did in the show notes. We had someone. So figure it out.
So as we are transitioning into Thanksgiving, our finance tip today is going to be around being charitable, being thankful. Again, happy people aren't grateful, grateful people are happy. And so as we look at our philanthropic endeavors that we can be thankful around this holiday season, starting tomorrow, going all the way through Christmas, remember that charitable giving can, when you do decide to itemize, save you some money. But more than that, science is telling us that this charitable bucket, we call it the compassion choice in money vehicle. This compassion choice is actually going to lead to our long-term happiness and overall holistic wellness and success. So I can attribute a few of the stories we've been covering. I can contribute a lot of what I am appreciative for this year and thankful to some of those groups and communities that I've gotten to go out and commit to. So I think that's a good finance tip today is, money is our employee. Money goes where we tell it to. And, putting it out into a community, putting it out into the society that we want to support is never a bad investment.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, you got to give to receive. And happy people aren't grateful. Grateful people are happy. I'll have to steal that. I definitely have to steal that one.
You got to. It's not the outputs, it's the inputs. You are grateful. The output is happy. You can't flip them around. But let's be thankful. We're gonna wrap up a few minutes early, but brother, I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for this show.
Yeah.
Always enjoy it, bro.
I think
And
we're pushing 30 weeks, huh? Or we're close.
we're right up there. Like we've hit our stride. We got structure now. We got like we just need to figure out how to get on LinkedIn and TikTok and keep spreading the message.
Exactly. We'll figure it out. Sponsors are going to soon come. 2021, we're getting a sponsor for this.
There it is. Money, or let's go bank shots. Yeah. One last. Pop. Thankful modern day athlete. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.
Peace. Is this still live?